Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner Davis.
And good evening to you, all of our viewers this evening, and of course, our co-host, Ms. April Garner Davis. How are you doing, April?
I'm great. How are you doing, Brother Edward?
Very well, very well. April, as you know, we're on this ever important topic on breast cancer. In fact, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That should be every month, based on statistics that's been coming out about the severity of addressing this issue on this topic on breast cancer. But this evening, we're going to have, as most of you have seen on our promo, we're going to have some breast cancer survivors, and they're here to uplift this awareness month. Hopefully, they could have been doing every month, but these survivors, it's important to ensure that women and men are educated about breast cancer. In our October issue of the magazine, the World Community Magazine, speaking of men, we featured a topic on the severity of men having breast cancer, but we can talk about that another time, but it should be talked about at least briefly here today. But we have two guests with us who are going to join us to wrap up the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we're talking about none other than Ms. Deborah Butler and Ms. Clarice Hemingway Armstead. They're going to be sharing their breast cancer survivor stories with us and anything else relative to this issue. We may have, I'll let April tell you about if any additional guests regarding any information regarding the urgency of voting. We always want to stress that. Is that correct, April?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, April, you want to kick this off?
Absolutely. So, as Brother Edward said, this is October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we certainly could not leave the month of October without having a great discussion about what it means to be a survivor. And we have special guests here tonight who are going to talk to us about their particular lived experiences as they were moving through their battle with breast cancer. I, for one, am wearing a shirt tonight that says "Her fight is our fight." F breast cancer. You can put in whatever you want for the F. But I wear this. I wear this shirt in honor of my beautiful auntie, Dolores Henry Moore, who is a breast cancer survivor as well. And these were the T-shirts that the family created so that we could show her that we stood in solidarity with her as she went through her breast cancer fight. And definitely rang that bell with a lot of vigor, as our two guests did as well, I'm sure. So everyone, of course, knows both of these wonderful women who are from the Horry County community and have done some amazing things in the area. I'm sure that their lives have been so impacted by their breast cancer fight that they have shared their stories numerous times, but we can't hear it enough. And so we introduced Deborah Butler and Clarice Hemingway Armstead. Deborah and Clarice, of course, know each other, I'm sure. So hopefully they had a chance to even share their stories with one another. Deborah in particular, I want to point out, and I'm sure that a lot of you who are familiar with both of these women know, but Deborah was in the medical field. And probably still is. I can't imagine, Deborah, that you could ever get away from the medical field, right?
No, you don't. You don't.
Exactly. So, Deborah, we definitely want and would appreciate you leaning into, even from the standpoint of like a health educator, healthcare provider, as you've been over the years, what that journey is like. Because I'm sure that you've probably dealt with patients as they were going through their fight. So, but before we get into the nuts and bolts of everything, I've done like just a soft introduction. We're going to ask each of our lovely guests to share a little bit more about who they are. So we will start with Deborah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me too. I'm Deborah Butler, as you said. I'm a retired nurse. Been a nurse for 49 years, still keep my license active. Breast cancer survivor of 20 years.
Mm.
Whoa.
Yay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Congratulations.
Brother Ed,
so,
breast cancer survivor, 20 years. How about that?
mhm. And
Well, that.
Yes.
it was a fight, and but you
Mm-hmm.
just stay prayed up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Miss Clarice.
Yes. Hi, my name is. Well, first of all, thank you, April. Thank you, Edward, for having me again this year, talking about breast cancer awareness. As you said before, my name is Clarice Hemingway Armstead. I am native of Horry County, went to Whittemore High School, elementary, junior high, and I left Conway in 1968, went to school in New York, which was Manhattan Community College. I worked in banking for about 38 years, and I moved back to South Carolina in 2013.
Okay, awesome. So, well, thank you all for, as I said, being a part of our communities, even though you left and you came back, or you've based your career in the community. We certainly do appreciate your life's work and the stories that you're going to tell tonight. So let's just start with, as you think about your breast cancer journey, what is the one word you can share with us tonight that would describe how you felt when you found out about your diagnosis? And either of you can start.
Shock. Shock.
Um,
Hmm. And the
well,
reason the reason I say shock was I thought I had done everything right. Meaning I tried to keep my weight down. I had children. I had breastfed because that's what they said to do. I thought I pretty much ate right, so I was shocked. And also, I didn't have a family history. So,
Mm,
mhm.
Wow, that's
mm,
interesting.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
yeah. I can agree with Deborah. I was shocked. Shocked, but in the back of my mind, I always thought maybe something would develop more because back in, I would say, around 2010 or 2011, I started having problems. I used to, like, when I would go have my mammograms done, they would do a mammogram sonogram. And a lot of times they used to have to do what they consider removal of fluid because sometimes I guess I'm not sure if it's just with people who with larger breasts or not, but the procedure was called aspirations, where they would have to take fluid or water that developed like in little little bubbles, and but everything would be okay after that. So I guess in the back of my mind, I always kind of felt that maybe eventually down the road something would happen. But as you know, as you get older, you kind of feel like maybe you escaped or you got away, or with that, and you didn't, that wouldn't happen to you now. So I guess shock would say it for me too. Yeah.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, Ms. Clarice, you mentioned just briefly a couple of the things that were, I guess, involved with what they would do procedurally, and
Hmm.
once you had the diagnosis. And so I'm going to go
Hmm.
back to Miss Deborah for a moment, though. The things that she mentioned, I'm sure you were familiar with or heard of before, or even had some experience with. How has the procedure part of it after the diagnosis changed over the years? Because now it's said that breast cancer is not a death sentence, and that the survival rate is very high, especially if it's caught early on. So, Ms. Deborah, tell us a little bit about what you know in terms of how things have kind of evolved over the years, especially since the diagnosis that the two of you received.
I think one of the things that changed, like when I had my mammogram, then they did an ultrasound. It was a week or so, in between follow up with the physician. Now, especially in some of your larger clinics, it's mammogram, ultrasound, try to get you scheduled as quickly as they can with a biopsy. So the wait time is less. And when she talked about the aspiration, of that fluid, I think they do things just a little bit different in doing when they do the ultrasound and then let's proceed on to do the biopsy. That was one of the things that kind of shocked me as when we were doing different trainings, especially in the Columbia area, they were doing it, you find this lump with the ultrasound, then straight and get a biopsy. There's no need in waiting, convincing you to come back in the system when they have to return.
Okay. So let's kind of get into your personal. Can you hear me now? Miss Deborah, you kind of bounced. Can Miss Clarice and Edward, can you two hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Deborah.
Yeah, I can hear you quite well. Yeah.
Okay. So
You mean put
it's
headphones
probably yeah. You may want to put headphones in, or can you hear me?
No.
No. Okay. So let's see. Send her a private message, Brother Edward, and I'll continue this with Miss Clarice. Just ask her to leave the screen and come back in. Okay. So Miss Clarice, as you were going through your journey, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and what happened whenever you received your diagnosis?
Okay, I'm gonna go back just a little bit. When I would do my mammograms in New York, they would automatically give you like a mammogram sonogram at the same time. But I found when I came here to South Carolina and I asked them about that, it was like, everything has changed and our system is a little upgraded now, so we don't have to do the sonogram. But when you get used to having one procedure done, you're kind of stuck on that because it was more familiar, and I felt they would tell you more, by having those two things done. So I was a little surprised that they didn't do that. But in my case, unlike Deborah's case, it was a year because in 2022, when I had my mammogram, it was fine. Everything came back good. But the following year, 2023, is when they saw something. So that's why I stressed the whole idea of women and men going in, getting their yearly mammograms done. I know that some doctors tell you that once you reach a certain age, say like 75 or something like that, you don't have to have mammograms again. But I don't agree with that because I was diagnosed at 74. And there was a lady in my church that was diagnosed in her 80s. So I think as long as you can have the procedure, if your insurance will still pay for it, I think as long as you can do it, don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And so let's go a little bit more into your personal story, Miss Clarice. Yeah, if you will. You said, you were shocked, of course, whenever you received your diagnosis. Tell us about the impact on your family and just, what you were thinking at the time in terms of, how you assessed life and reflected on things at that time.
Okay. Well, when they first told me that, they thought that's what it was, and they wanted me to come right back the following week to have a sonogram, and so they could start doing the pinpoint, and you do that where they're going to go in and do everything. At first, like I said, I was shocked, but then it's only myself and my son because my husband died in 1998 of pancreatic cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew the impact that it had on him at 14 So my first instinct, of course, is not saying anything to him until I'm really sure of what is going on with me before I contact him to say, listen, this is what's going on and I have cancer now. Because I knew we kind of kept it from him. And when he did find out that his dad had it, he didn't fare well with that because, the first thing is like, why you didn't tell me? But we felt at 14, not that he wouldn't know what was going on, but we just didn't want to burden him at that time with telling him that. So I think you think about, your family first and maybe kind of shielding them. But after they told me that, it was like stage 1, and I was so happy and glad of that. But I felt like, okay, it's not going to be the same situation as going through with his dad. So, you think about that, and then I started thinking about, oh Lord, let me get everything together, far as like insurances. Let me make sure everything is paid up, stuff. So you kind of, I guess, like, some people think, do it differently, but for me, it was like trying to get everything in order, just in case, because you never know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You never know, and of course, you never know, and an unexpected diagnosis probably does kind of send you into a little bit of a spiral. You're trying to figure out, what's next, and how do I deal with it? And it's amazing because, like you said, even through your journey, you had to really think about you were thinking about your son before it sounded like before you were even really thinking about how you were going to take care of yourself. You were trying to to kind of filter through his emotions and how he would process the information because he'd already experienced a big loss. So that was very unselfish of you, and and I'm sure that there were a lot of just mixed emotions that you had to deal with as individual in your quiet time and all of that. So so tell us a little bit about your treatment plan. Like, what happened once the doctor said, okay, here's what we're going to do.
Okay. Well, on my birthday, which is April 3rd, I met with my surgeon, and he explained to me like the size. He showed me, like the size of the cancer was. It was very small. It was like the size of like an M&M candy, is what he explained to me. And they told me that, I needed to go in and have a procedure done. And I'm sure Deborah knows, I don't know the exact wording of it, but where they would tag you. So they would actually know exactly where they have to go in to take this tumor out, or the cancer out. So they explained all of that to me. And I thought personally that since it was so small, that maybe I could just do radiation. But then once I met with the oncologist, she was saying, because of your age, they give you a scale to look at, and because of the age, they suggested that I should do the chemo. So, and doing chemo, that's another whole journey that you're not expecting. So the first day when I did do my chemo treatment, I guess my body was like, hey, what's going on? What are you putting in me now? So it made me kind of like sick, and all my joints and everything started hurting. But I only, thank God, had to do four sessions of chemo. I would do one session like one day, 1 week, and then like for 3 weeks I didn't have to do it again. But in those 3 weeks, your body, because it's not used to this medication going in there, you and it's not for I'm sure some people don't experience that, but with me, it was like you didn't, your whole, you know, self, your whole body, like everything ached or hurt or whatever. And by time the third week came, you were settling, but then it was time to go back again for it all over again. So, it was a constant. I was, glad to get through with that. And then right after that, you go into radiation. And after the radiation, you kind of like, I guess you got to give your body time to like settle down. So it's like, getting everything out of it. You got to, let your body, just, try to flush out or whatever, all of the stuff that they put in. Of course, as women, and with our hair, we have this thing, you don't want to lose your hair, but it's just a process. And you just you just have to take one day at a time, process what's going on, pray, uh just be thankful that you're still here. It could have been worse, so it's just it's just a process that you have to go through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now that Deborah's back, Deborah, can you hear us? I don't think she can hear us, Brother Edward.
You've got an interesting
We can
testimony, Eris.
We can hear.
Okay.
We need
We
to
can
find
see
out
her.
whether or not we can hear it. Yeah. And you're going to have to text her, Brother Edward, or call her. So I'm going to remove you from the screen and to see whether or not you can work that out with her. Okay. All right. All right. So now, Miss Clarice, to take us back, you said at what age were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed at 74.
Wow, at 74. And yeah, so and you'd had clean mammograms or clear mammograms up to that point?
I had clear mammograms from, like I said, I think it was around 2010 or 11 was when I did have a biopsy, but then that came out. It was good. So from, I would say 2012, let's go back, 2012 until 2023, everything was good. Everything was good until then. And, that's why I stress that women go every year for your mammogram. I know it's uncomfortable, especially for, us that have larger, breasts than other women. But hey, it only lasts is what, 5-10 minutes at the most. So, go have your mammograms, talk to your doctor. For me, I know they stress self-examination, but for me, I had my son at I was almost 35. So I wasn't able to breastfeed because I had cysts. And of course, so they give you something, like to dry up your milk and everything like that. So you still have those like pockets of like lumps, there. So for me, self-examination, I would think I have something all the time because, it would always be something unnormal there, but talk to your doctor. It's good to have a good rapport with your doctor, because if you have a good rapport with your doctor, and I'm a person, when I go to the doctor, when they say, Clarice, how you feel, what's going on, I'm going to say whatever it is. But I notice, and I'm not saying it's just inclusive to the Black neighborhood, but I noticed that when we go to the doctor, we do not tell the doctor what's going on. Men and women, they don't say. So if you don't say, then, when something like this happens, I'm not saying you should blame yourself, but you have to like speak up and say. And if you have a doctor that doesn't want to touch you or don't want to, then find another doctor. Go to another doctor. I always say, if you're paying for your insurance and you spending your money, then you find somebody that's going to take your money but give you satisfaction also.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking about the biopsy, and that is and I will be in full transparency sharing as well that I had a biopsy because they saw something on my mammogram about 2 years ago, and it was a scary time. It's almost like time stood still. And to your point about women with larger breasts, sometimes it is tough for us to actually do the self-examinations because our breasts are so dense, and what you think you're feeling may not be it, or you can't really feel it at all. So it is good to make sure that you have your annual mammograms. Highly recommended as well, like you said. And so Tanya Robinson, thank you for watching tonight. Refresh our memory, Miss Clarice. She wants to know, did you have a family history of breast cancer?
Ironically, back in I think it was around 2012, my brother, my older brother, and I would say he was in his late 60s at the time when he was diagnosed with breast cancer. My mom said she had a scare when she was younger, but it turned out not to be cancer. But she actually died of cancer, but a different cancer. She didn't have breast cancer. Now, my oncologist recommend me take a test, which is like a sort of like family type test where you would take it because she wanted to make sure that like my son Brian wouldn't have cancer, because like I said, his dad died from pancreatic cancer. So I've had cancer in the family, but different forms of cancer.
Okay. All right. So we're going to see if we can bring Miss Deborah on. Miss Deborah, can you hear us?
Yes, now.
And we can hear you.
No problem. I had too many open.
Oh, okay. All right. Awesome. Glad you found out what the problem was. So, like Miss Clarice, we'd like for you to share your lived experience. So, from diagnosis to plan of treatment. Tell us about that pathway and what that journey was like.
Okay. Mine started 2005, probably March. Found a lump. Had the mammogram, something's wrong because they sent you immediately for ultrasound. Then sent me to the physician because they said they didn't think it was anything serious. They thought maybe I had some swelling. So when I went to see the surgeon, and he just said, you got to tell me where it is because your breasts are so dense, I can't see it. So we did the biopsy. It came back that everything was encapsulated. He said, you're good to go. Repeat your mammogram in 3 months. I was like, nope, that's not what I want to do. Let's just take them off. That's easier for me. I don't have to keep up with follow-up. I was glad I did, because then when I did that, they found that it had already spread to my lymph nodes. So everything he told me was just wrong. I ended up, he said I would need nothing. And actually, he sent me to the oncologist for her to talk me out of doing a mastectomy. And I was just like, no, this thing grew too fast. I would rather have it out. So I went from needing nothing to having mastectomy, the left breast, then chemo, adriamycin and Cytoxan, which is what they call the red devil. They call it that for a reason. Then I did 6 weeks of radiation. Herceptin, I was supposed to stay on a year, but I couldn't. It was just not agreeing with me. And then later on, while I was going through chemo, they realized that I would need another mastectomy. And so that was done. And then I started reconstructive surgery. I've had 8 reconstructive surgeries. And most of that was implants rupturing because my oncologist would not sign off for silicone because of the cancer problems with silicone breasts, so saline, but they shape different. It was all kind of problems. And then luckily they came out with something, street name is probably gummy bears, and for the life of me, I don't know the real name, but they were a lot better. They fit better, they look better, everything. And the one thing, the takeaway from all of this is you need a good support system, trust your own intuition with your body, because the doctor is telling me, hey, Deborah, you're good. He said, matter of fact, I think you're too educated. That's why you want your breast removed. I was like, no, I was traveling as a nurse. I just couldn't think that I would have to remember every 3 months when I'm getting a new assignment to make time to get a mammogram. So selfish reasons, but it ended up helping me. And I had 3 grandchildren at the time, and my thought was I'd love to see them grow up. And so now I have 11 grandchildren
Wow.
and 1 great grandchild. So I got to see a whole lot of things grow up. But it, when, and I didn't hear the other part, but I know that a lot has changed with diagnosis, the treatment, how they start you. Like, say, for example, one thing the surgeon told me, because of what happened with me, he did things a lot different than he had been doing in the past. And I said, well, what made you do that? He said, because you were so adamant. So it made me rethink what we were telling women and advising them. Well, no, just wait. You don't need to do that right now. We're just going to follow up. And I think that made a huge difference. And when I said I didn't have a family history, what I've learned since then is we had a family history of ovarian cancer. Some of my cousins had breast cancer, but I don't have sisters. And so when I talk to people, I always tell them those little family secrets we're keeping, we don't need to keep them, because that is the thing that kept all of us from knowing what had happened. The same time, let's see, some years later, my cousin who I grew up with, we were like always together whenever I was in Alabama. She ended up with breast cancer, and it was hard to figure out where hers had started. Was it uterine or breast or vice versa? And because she had waited so late, for fear that she didn't want to know, she passed like within a year of diagnosis.
Oh my goodness. So let's talk about that. Brother Edward, I don't know if you can ready to say anything, but you're muted just in case. But I do want us to talk about the fear, because I think that that's the thing that we need to help women and men navigate and let go of, so that they can be diagnosed, or if there's a cancer possibility, that it can be detected early on. So, what would you say to the viewers, individuals who may be watching, who, are having their own personal journey right now? They probably need to go have a mammogram. They felt a lump, or what they think is a lump or whatever, and they don't know what it is. What would you say to them in order to help them overcome the fear?
The mammogram hurts a lot less than a mastectomy. A lot of women complain about the pressing and it feel, and like when I had a mammogram, they didn't even have the 3D mammograms. The 3D mammogram allows you to see much more than what you could see 20 years ago when I did a mammogram. So, the fear is, don't fear that as much as if you don't get it done, what will happen. So if you would go get that mammogram, or some of the programs for those of us who had sisters, that all 3 of us or 4 of us, how many sisters may need to do to get a mammogram. And the other thing too, I was diagnosed right at 50. So I encourage my daughters to get a mammogram, because that puts them at higher risk. And they have some studies, on sisters and that relationship, and those BRCA gene surveys are free. You just sign up for that program, and it really helps in identifying it early, because early detection saves lives. That's the
Right.
The one thing we can go away with, be consistent with. If I had waited any longer, my story may be just a little bit different, or if I would even be here to tell it.
Wow. So, wow, all these testimonies. So, I just have a couple of questions. One in particular that I was very, very interested in is, what is the youngest age that you all have perceived or has seen in the past being breast cancer survivors? What is the youngest age that you've seen young women?
The studies say as someone as young as 8. What I personally know is someone at 14. There is a group of younger women diagnosed with breast cancer. A lot of those women are under 20. In their teens, got diagnosed at 15, 16. So when girls are growing up, to tell them, oh, let's just wait till you're 25 to start doing that, that's not correct. And a lot of things have changed. The one good thing is because there's been so much research with breast cancer, the treatment is different. The survivor rate is different. The thing with African American women is we wait so late because of our fears, and we're taking care of everyone else that we don't take care of ourselves. So sometimes when we make it to finally get the mammogram, it's already spread. So encouraging women to not fear. Get your friend to go with you instead of going shopping that day. Schedule a mammogram. And now, like also, like say when we've done mammograms in the community and get the van to come from Conway, don't be afraid to get on there. It works. We've identified people on those when we do the breast cancer and reach out. And it's so important that we follow up. If you feel the lump, don't be afraid. One of my best friends, when I lived in Savannah, hid her results from us. We sent her because we picked it up on an exam. So she went to the doctor, went to the surgeon. He made the recommendation of what she needed was a biopsy. She said she didn't want to know. So a year later, when we noticed that there's drainage on her clothes and saying, hey, what's going on? Did you never? And so we later find out she had hid the results because her fear was losing the breast. And to me, a breast is easy to lose rather than your life.
Your life,
and there's
exactly.
so much they could do reconstructive wise. Even the things they do reconstructive are different than what they started off doing some years ago.
So do you object, or I don't know, it may not have been done already, but having a trip to maybe a high school to tell them what they should be doing to avoid breast cancer? I know you're talking about some people who are under 17 and stuff like that.
Absolutely not. I don't have any problem going to do that. However, the school may not want me to do that. But absolutely not. I mean, I've been, even before I got diagnosed with breast cancer, I was doing breast cancer education straight out of school in 76. So imagine how much has changed since then. What we tell you, how we tell you to examine, the things we tell you to follow up on. And a lot of times you have to be your own advocate. If not, here's a surgeon telling me I disagree strongly with what you're doing. I don't agree with you, even though the oncologist is telling him I agree with her. Let's just see what else is going on. And I just think that education is the key to everything. The more you know, the better you are able to take care of yourself and to be your own advocate and do the preventive things.
Yes. Okay. So there was a question earlier, at what age should women get a mammogram? Has that moved in terms of the, the recommended age? Because if there are people or the females who, like you said, were diagnosed as early as 8 or 14 years old, is there a threshold for like absolutely maybe what is considered the medical norm or the medical recommendation for
It's
mammograms?
it's still 40.
Still 40. Even with the
Mhm.
younger diagnosis, it's
And
still 40. Wow.
the reason is those are ab- abnormalities. So they
Okay.
go by what is most common. So even for those of us who were diagnosed 50 and 40, if you wanted someone in your family, for example, your daughter, there has to be almost an override with the insurance company. And that
Mm-hmm.
doctor has to attach something to it saying mother diagnosed at 49 or 40 or 30, whatever it was. This is why we're asking this mammogram to be done earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That
Okay.
makes sense. That makes sense.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So,
And
go ahead. Go
and
ahead.
so as they do more and more studies and we're learning more, then that's when things begin to change. And those, like when I've worked with Cancer Alliance and American Cancer Society, those are the things that change. And a lot of times when I used to speak with, there was one of the young ladies who participated in a clinical trial. So if you know that you had something going on and you began to look and see what clinical trials there are, also this, I think it's called sister to sister, those were to get women family history who had a history of breast cancer, to that if there's two sisters that they can go, and that's free, that, and that's that BRCA gene study. And also they follow them for a number of years, because like I said, 20 years I've met so many women, so many sisters, that because the one sister found it, it enabled someone else. And couple of the speakers were, you know, in their 30s. As a matter of fact, when I was going through chemo, the person that sat next to me was 30, you know, and
Mm.
she was really having a very difficult time. And for a lot of reasons, you know, she was
Mm-hmm.
married, you know, her husband wasn't real happy that she had breast cancer. And I think, matter of fact, the reason they sat me next to her was to be able to talk to her, to tell her, you know, come on, follow through. You know, chemo is rough enough without you deciding, I'm not going to eat. Um, and I see someone put in there the insurance when she was 35.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it has to do with family history. And you do have to attach a note to it, else they won't do it. And sometimes they're going to have to attach it more than one time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that Sonia Ford, thank you for tuning in tonight. I'm glad that she kind of mentioned that touch point about insurance. I think a lot of times uh, people tend to shy away or stay away from medical, just even routine physicals and things like that because they can't afford it. They have insurance and they figure the insurance won't cover it. They don't want to be faced with a large medical bill or anything like that. And so can you share with us resources that are available for people who, you know, are just apprehensive only because of financial aspects of things? I know that, for example, Kim Clora, she has the Jackie Rogers Foundation, and her work, if I'm not mistaken about her mission, is to kind of offer support for people who are going through, and you know that's kind of in the not along the lines of paying for procedures or anything like that, but just you know everyday caregiver type of support items that they may need. But for people who you know they need to go, they're afraid to go for a number of reasons, but finance is the main one. What is out there that can help them to kind of get over that part?
Well, we do have two federally qualified health centers. That's Little River Medical Center and Healthcare Partners. Those are based on income. Best Chance Network, if they didn't get cut with all the changes that are going on now, that's a resource. Also, Coleman has, I think it's called Share to Care, that they assist with resources. Also, and I did not know this till today when I was looking it up because I saw your note. American Cancer Society has a 24/7 day a week where you can call in. They assist you with finding resources, places you can get a mammogram without having to worry about how you're going to pay for it. And even when you start treatment, there are programs available through Komen and through ACS that can connect you with sources that can help you pay. And I know Kim's program is excellent in helping women with payment, and that money is for them, however they want to use it.
Yeah, so I've got this other point that I wanted to get over, and that was, I guess, listening to you, Deborah, you said something about, I mean, much earlier in the program about your request for a second opinion wasn't really taken seriously. At least that's the way I gathered it. So the doctor said you didn't have to do certain things, but you did. So you can say that if you were speaking to a class, not a class, but an audience of women about breast cancer, you would strongly recommend a second opinion.
It's not a second opinion. For me, it was the feeling that it grew so fast that his recommendation was I didn't need any further, I didn't need surgery, because he was like, well, it's all encapsulated, so you're good. And what I said was, I want it off, because I don't want to have to deal with that. It may grow, it may not grow. And so anytime that you have a doubt, yes, get a second opinion, because you may get something that's different, and that's your choice. You don't have to believe everything the provider tells you. That's your right to question. And if you don't, it's your body, you get one. Because last I looked, they ain't sent me a clone to say, oh, you can get you a new one. It's your body. Take care of it. It's God's gift to you. So if we don't take care of it and don't question what they tell you, like I always tell someone, when you first get hit with you have cancer, nothing they say do you hear for the next, whatever he telling you, you don't hear. Okay, because you are like, wow, I got what? Okay,
you're just dealing with what you just heard,
right? So
mm-hmm.
You need a follow-up appointment, and you need to ask for it and say, let me get a minute to process this. And then what I want to do is come back and ask you a question. Take a tablet where you can write down, look up some information, some questions, because you're going to have questions, especially if they tell you, oh, well, you're going to need chemo, you're going to need radiation. And those things, you want to be able to ask questions. And I saw Tanya put in there about Carotene Plus. That's another center that is that's income based, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
and so
we used to have that sliding scale.
And so, when most people know their own body, you have that little intuition, that feeling. So when someone's telling you, well, you don't need this. And remember, I was a nurse. So quite naturally, you kind of question, and you don't necessarily believe what they told you. At least I didn't, and I was glad that I did question him. And like I said, when they sent me to the oncologist, it was for her to talk me out of, having this breast removed. He was like, fine, you're fine. Just don't worry about that.
Wow.
So I want to share with the two of you, I think Miss Clarice must have had a phone call or whatever, it kind of kicked her out. But one of the viewers tonight mentioned something in the chat, and I'm scrolling back up to what she said. And I reached out to her and asked if she would be a part of this broadcast to talk about her situation. BC Hill. And BC, I'm going to bring you on in just a moment. But she says that she's a breast cancer survivor, and she had both a genetic and genomic testing to ensure that her sons or grandchildren are not gene carriers. And so, BC, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you so much for on the fly joining the discussion. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, and so DC, tell us about your story, and then we'll lean into the genetic and genomic testing part of it. Once you shared with us.
Okay, so good evening again. My story began in April of 2018, and I was at work, and I'd had my mammogram, my regular annual mammogram, and the lady called and she said, "Well, we saw a spot, and we'd like for you to come back." So I went back, and as it turned out, I was stage 1A to be exact. And of course, as Miss Deborah and Miss Clarice have said, that word cancer is frightening enough. So I followed through. My next step was to do an MRI, where they do the MRI with contrast and to light up and see exactly how big or how small it was. And from there, I had to pick an oncologist, a surgeon, and everything kind of moved fast paced. And this one doctor that I came in contact with, I told my sister and my niece at the time, and my two sons, I said, that doctor didn't touch me. He didn't look at me. He didn't even make eye contact with me. And his nurse came in and she was like a Barbie. She didn't even, try to make me feel comfortable, none the least. Miss Deborah's laughing, but it's real. It's a true story. And they didn't. And I said, well, I won't be going back to him, because he came in just looking at his notes. He said, yes, I'm looking at your testing, and I see that you're a candidate for like 35 rounds of chemo, and I'm shaking in my boots. Now, sir, you haven't examined me. You haven't touched me. You haven't even really introduced yourself. So from there, I went back to work, and I talked to some of the ladies, some of the sisters, and some of the white ladies, and they gave me some genuine advice. And I kind of prayed, and I kind of took what they said. I did some of my own research, and I ended up with some really great doctors, my medical oncologist, and then my radiation oncologist. And they talked to me, and they told me, they said, we're going to take your case and all of your labs and the MRS tests and the studies that we've done on you, and we're going to take it before the board. And I was like, praise you, Jesus. And he said, we meet on Thursday nights, and we're going to see what's the best treatment path for you going forward. As it turns out, fast forward, I only had to have 35 rounds of radiation and no chemo. And I had a 5-year plan. He started me with tamoxifen, and that really, really hurt. It hurt my joints so bad and gave me a excruciating headache. I couldn't take that. So then he changed me. He said, now I'm going to give you like 7 to 10 days. He said, and you and my wife are the same age. He said, if it hurts you too bad, I promise you we'll change it. He changed me, and I took a Arimidex from 2018 to 2023. I took all 35 rounds of my radiation, and my genetic and genomic tests, it included a series of blood tests and some other testing. I forget the test, but they did test me to see if I had the BRCA gene. And out of all my patterns of my genes, I had one in the lower left quadrant that was misbehaving. And they said I had a lesser chance. Miss Deborah smiling, so thank you. It was misbehaving. So I had a lesser chance, but they gave me a notebook. And with all my information, heaven forbid, when I pass, if I pass, that my children and my sons will all have, that information readily available.
That's different.
Yeah. And I invited BC because, the information that she shared in the chat is something that, was full of terminology that one may hear if they are going through a diagnosis. And, like Ms. Deborah said earlier, you don't hear anything after we found a lump, or we found, we need to do X or whatever. So it's really important for everyone to educate themselves, and sharing stories is a great way to do this, because it really, to me, it shows the realness of what this type of a diagnosis is and can look like. And it also shows we have 3 breast cancer survivors here on screen. Each of them had, a different walk with their breast cancer diagnosis, and yet they're all survivors today sitting here with us. So if you learn nothing else from this broadcast, you know that there is life after the breast cancer diagnosis. But there are things that have to be done. And then from the standpoint of what BC was talking about, when it comes down to passing on this information to your children, but also maybe even alerting your siblings, you know, of the possibilities, because if you're in line for it, and even if it's an unexpected thing, then there could be somebody else in your family that's also in line for it. And so that, you know, that this information needs to be shared. And another thing that I really want us to focus on as well with the time that we have, is, you know, just when it comes down to the procedures, I think people tend to create these thoughts in their heads about what's going to happen and, you know, how it's going to feel and all of that. And, you know, there's no way to really comfort anyone in terms of talking them completely out of what they feel, because they're not going to know until they really go through it. But I think part of this process, as far as what even we're going through tonight in educating everyone, is to at least help people prepare for what may be ahead should there be a cancer diagnosis, because a biopsy does not mean you're going to have a cancer diagnosis. You know, I worried for, you know, every day until I got the results of my biopsy. And I, you know, when it came back that it was negative, I practically threw my phone across the room and started praising God. But that week of like building it up in my head and thinking about the what ifs, like Ms. Clarice said, let me get my insurance in order, let me do this, let me do that. It was very nerve-wracking. So, you know, I think a part of the extended support system is doing as much as we can to educate everyone, and it's not just you know, men or women, it's men as well. I dropped the link in the chat. I don't know if it's going to work across YouTube, but there's a young man who we invited to be with us tonight. Unfortunately, his schedule wouldn't allow him to join us, but his name is Travis Douglas, and recently there was a story out of Columbia, South Carolina, of this 46-year-old Black male who was talking about his victory over breast cancer. And he said a year and 9 months ago, his life was turned upside down with this diagnosis of breast cancer. So he felt a strange lump, just like women do, and decided to get it checked out. Didn't think it was anything serious, but then, you know, he got that diagnosis. And of course, you know, it was like a genetic type situation as well. So I think that as we, you know, continue to bring a focus to an awareness of breast cancer and the things that could lead up to a diagnosis, or even what happens after a diagnosis, we also have to make sure that we're doing it across gender lines. Because even though we don't have a male here to talk to us about it tonight, obviously it is something that impacts you know, males as well. And Deborah, I don't know if you have any information you can share from the standpoint of having been a, you know, health care professional, but it would be, you know, good to bring a little bit of a focus on that tonight as well.
Well, the person I met was also when we were preparing for the first walk we did up at North Myrtle Beach. And this guy found his on a cruise, but he was very angry because he kept saying, I don't understand why I got this as a man. And what we were trying to explain to him is you have tissue. So if you want to look at it, breast is tissue. So it's not that only women get it. And what I would always tell him, you have got to change your mindset with this, because you're so angry, you're not going to be able to heal. And matter of fact, I've never seen a more angry man. And what really troubled me was when he said, well, why didn't this happen to my wife? She's the one with the breast. And I said, but you have tissue on your chest that is breast tissue. And it was difficult for him to understand. And I think it's harder for a man, but the men that have had it have willingly shared their story, because it was, just imagine as women, if we were shocked, how shocked they would be, and how troubling it would be that, if I hadn't explored this just a little longer, where would I be? And so, you know, when, like I said, when I met him, it was when we were preparing for that walk. So getting all the survivor stories.
Mhm. If I'm not mistaken, Richard Roundtree had breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, it's no respect of persons,
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. There's a question. Hold on, let me scroll. Ms. Margie McIver, thank you for watching tonight. She says, what do you see as the biggest advancement in diagnosis and treatment that would allay fears of those with early detection?
The change in the treatment. One of the things when the diagnosis and the treatment is much quicker, they don't wait these weeks and months to get you in. The medicine is a lot different. The combination of medicines is different. A lot of things where, say, I had Adriamycin, Cytoxan, Herceptin, they changed that around where they give it to you sooner. When I got Herceptin, it was in the last phase of the clinical trial. As a matter of fact, some of the problems that I started having on Herceptin, they kept telling me that wasn't in the clinical trials, and it was the respiratory problems. I'd have treatment on Friday afternoon. By Friday night, I was in the emergency room. So the the different treatments, and even the other thing, even if they found that it has spread, there is so much more medicine out there for patients with what they call metastatic cancer. That is new from 20 years ago when I was diagnosed. A lot of those patients are doing well and they're thriving. So the earlier you could get in, I think you may not need, if they can, you may not need chemo, radiation, mastectomy. All you may need is a lumpectomy. And so that's the whole key and the importance of getting early diagnosis.
Well, I think I've heard that word lumpectomy a long, long time ago. I guess with my aunt. Now, is that like still one of the most prominent options that these doctors will convey to you quickly before they start going into talking about breast remove?
I I think that's one of the things they'll tell you as one of your options after you have the biopsy,
Yeah.
because the biopsy is going to tell them what type cancer it is. You know, so that gives you your options and what they will recommend, whether it may be a lumpectomy or a mastectomy. Every time someone finds they have cancer doesn't mean they're going to have a mastectomy. It depends on the size of the lump that was found, where it is, and what type cancer it is.
Okay. I know we're kind of getting close to time, but there's just one issue a topic that no one has ever tapped on yet, and that is the reproductory system. Is that impacted by having diagnosis breast cancer early on, like a young lady that's 20, 21?
It can be, but like I said, a lot of the new medicines are what they call reproductive sparing. So it's not as many issue as it was even 25 to 30 years ago, with that to be, if you got chemo, it was a wrap.
Okay.
Mm.
Kind of lost
Both
it.
well, they may be getting phone calls. I think they're both taking this from their cell phone. But what I will say is, BC, thank you so much on the fly for jumping in. And I love your T-shirt. God is greater than our highs and lows. I love it. I love it. Yes, I know all about it.
Yes.
And we just appreciate you sharing your story. And you're part of this educating the village.
Absolutely.
And even though you're as beautiful as you are, concerned about your hair and throwing a hat, you did it because you knew the importance of being here today to share your story. And we thank you for watching and jumping in on the conversation. It looks like we might have Miss Deborah, Miss Clarice back. Was just saying to be okay. Was just saying to BB thanking her for being a part of this, and also just wanted to thank the two of you as well for being a part of the show tonight. It was very important for us to get this information out as we wrap up Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And shouts out again to my aunt Dolores Henry for being Henry Moore for being a survivor as well. You know, as one more thing I want to touch on though, Deborah, you were talking about I think the mobile mammogram units.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do in the community to make sure that the mobile mammogram units are coming to communities and neighborhoods where there's probably a propensity for people to not go to the doctor or to not seek treatment or anything like that if they're going through some things or if they have any kind of a concern about their breasts? How do we get in touch with the mobile units to get them out here?
When you contact the mobile unit, let's say we realize there's an area where there's a pocket of women that aren't going. If you contact them, they will help you schedule the mammogram. Also, when we schedule, we ask them, what is the number that you want us to put in? If they say 15 or 20, when we put those 20 women in, the first thing we're calling, we're making sure you come. When we've done them, we've gone to pick women up to make sure that you show up. If it's right there in where they live, that's a lot easier because then I can knock on your door. But we try not to waste their time coming. So it's up to us. Like if it's a church and you know you have some members of your church, then call them, get them scheduled. If it's in a neighborhood, set it up. We've done it even out at Smith Jones Park. We've had it. We didn't have a good turnout, but we've scheduled it. So you can always do a wellness event, a health. If that van is available, they are more than willing to come. That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
Good. That's good.
Yeah. Awesome. So do you all have any parting words before we let you go for the evening? As breast cancer survivors, you know, what's the one thing you want to leave everybody with as far as the greatest takeaway from your experiences?
Early
Go
detection.
and have your yearly mammograms.
Period.
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 Starting at what age?
Well, like
40
they
is
said,
the
it's
recommended.
40, yeah.
However, if you know that you need it because of family history, talk to your doctor so they can contact your insurance because a lot of insurance will not pay for it. That's
true.
That's where you do appeals and get them to attach that letter of why it needs to be done.
And I think that's why a lot of women don't go because they don't have the money to pay for it and the insurance won't pay for it.
So what is the typical cost of a mammogram? I mean, just off the tip of your head.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
It's
think
been
it's
20 years
very-
since I had one, so I don't even remember what was on that bill. You know,
Right.
I don't know. Because I know an MRI is pretty expensive. But those things, you know, are covered. And they have some, there's a lot of programs. And I know, like I said, Best Chance Network, those clinics that are federally funded health centers, care team, healthcare partners, Little River Medical Center, that's what they're there for. They have linkage into getting you your mammograms. And a lot of the hospitals have foundations that pay for women to get mammograms and also the follow-up care because it's not when we discovered someone on the van with a lump, there's a follow-up process. If they didn't have any money, the foundation took care of that. But you don't know if you don't ask. But most of the hospitals have a foundation that covers indigent care for women that need more past that mammogram.
Right. Because I went to Coastal Cancer Center and they actually called me in and told me that they did have a program there. But some of the programs they cover if you have more severe type of cancer. With me, it was very, you know, well, not minimal because nothing is minimal, but you have to have certain types of cancer sometimes for those programs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my parting words would be is to know your family history. You know, on both sides, maternal and paternal. And on both sides of our family, Tanya Robinson is my cousin. On both sides of our family, we've had to endure cancer, different types of cancers, or what have you. But know your family history. So when you do have to push full steam ahead and ask these doctors to do these tests early, then you'll have the substantiating evidence to say, hey, I do need this. And I had to insist on getting a 3D mammogram. Actually, I just had my annual last Friday and praying my very best that I'm still clear.
Amen.
You have to insist that they give
Yes, you do.
what you need.
Well, thank you again, ladies, for sharing your stories.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely. And God bless you as breast cancer survivors. And thank you for sharing all the wonderful information. I'm sure that we will circle back at some point to, hear more stories, and you can share what you learn and what you know anytime. And if there's any other topics that are even related to this, like Deborah, as you were talking about the mastectomies and wearing the prosthetics and things of that nature, maybe that's, another angle to things that we can actually talk about, just to continue to educate people, women in particular, and but also we need to push the men to make sure that they're being tested as well. So thank you all tonight for joining us.
Thank you
once again.
You're welcome. And
The wealth of information. This information was powerful. Yeah, I know I'm a man coming from a man's perspective, and I know statistics show like less than 2% men with breast cancer, but that's 2% we don't need. Okay, but the information that was delivered this evening with these women, these survivors, that just to me had the magnitude of an atomic bomb. Especially, that's why I kept putting emphasis on younger people. I think even 40 is too old to wait until you just get 40. I would recommend, and I'm not a physician, but based on what I've read about it and a little literary research that I've done on it, 30, 35, look at something. Because it's happening just too often now.
Okay. Well, we're gonna roll out in just a moment. We do want to remind everyone that we are in the midst of elections.
Absolutely.
And so it's very important to make sure that you raise your voice with your vote. Early elections are happening now. As a matter of fact, early elections end on Friday, October the 31st. And there are several races that are going on here in Horry County. If you look around Horry County, Aner, Lawrence, Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, Atlantic Beach, Conway, there's something going on, some type of mayoral or city council race. So we definitely want you to make sure that you get out to vote. If you can't vote during this early voting phase, make sure you show up to the polls November 4th. And we can't express that enough. And as a matter of fact, we have a little something to help you understand the importance of why you should vote. So hold on just a moment.
Every vote counts, and your voice matters. Whether it's better roads, safer neighborhoods, or stronger schools, the people we elect shape our communities. Don't wait until it's too late. Early voting ends October 31st, so grab a friend, a family member, or a neighbor and head to the polls. Because when we all show up, our towns grow stronger, our voices grow louder, and our communities shine brighter. This is your reminder. Vote on November 4th. Let's make it count for all of Horry County. Your vote, your voice, your power. Don't miss it.
All right, Brother Edward, your vote, your voice, your power.
That's right. That's right. Everybody get out there and vote.
Yes, please do. Please vote. Okay, that's all we say. Please vote.
We're nonpartisan. Okay, so
we're nonpartisan. We're not going to
just urge you to vote.
How to vote, but just vote.
Yeah.
Please vote. Yes. But anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. We really do appreciate it, and I can't believe we are actually getting ready to move into November already, Brother Edward. November will be here Saturday. Oh my gosh, we have 2 more months left in this year. Wow, incredible. So we do have a nice lineup that we're confirming now for our November broadcast. And so please stay tuned. We appreciate all of the support. Remember, this particular broadcast is always available and will be available for at least the next week. So if you will, please snag the link, share it, especially if you know of anyone who might be going through, a breast cancer journey right now, or, they feel a little apprehensive about finding out what their status is. So just make sure that you help to educate those around you. And again, we appreciate you all being with us tonight, and we hope that you have a good rest of your week.
Godspeed.
Yes.
Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook.